Hello and welcome to today's episode of LinkedIn with Louise. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about building authority online and in particular on LinkedIn. Before we get into it, I do want to read you out a couple of great recommendations that I got on LinkedIn. I hope you're asking for recommendations from your network on LinkedIn. It is such a great way to get content from your clients and customers that comes directly from them. So what I mean by that is if somebody sent you, so say you did a piece of work for somebody and they sent you an email and told you that they loved working with you and here's why, and you copied that text and put it on your website, or you shared it on Instagram, or you shared it in a post on LinkedIn, that's wonderful. But if you get a recommendation on your LinkedIn account, it comes directly from the person who's making the recommendation. So you have a lot more, what we call welly behind it, or has a lot more credibility because it's coming directly from that person's own personal LinkedIn account. Little tip for you, if you reach out to somebody and ask them to recommend you, so you finish working with somebody and reach out and ask them to write you a recommendation, they might not reply straight away. This has happened several times to me. Don't worry about reaching out to them like a week later and just reminding them that they said, when you worked together, they said they were happy to recommend you. And you could also offer help in writing that recommendation. If they don't really know what to say or they don't know what way to construct that recommendation, you can offer pointers for them if you want. So I'll just read out a couple of recommendations that I have had this week. So I did a team training with a fantastic company in the US called Cashflow Diary, and Jeremy left me this recommendation on LinkedIn. I actually love what Jeremy wrote so much. He wrote, "This woman is phenomenal. Thank you, Jeremy. Louise provided an in-depth LinkedIn strategy session for our sales team and our coaches, and also helped to optimize our profiles. The game plan that she created for our company has significantly increased our connections and engagement. Highly recommend to anyone looking to build a presence on LinkedIn." Thank you so much, Jeremy. Also, before Christmas, I did a workshop for David Siteman Garland, who is the founder of the Rise to the Top, Create Awesome Online Courses, Course Cats, so many brilliant trainings online. I signed up for one of David's courses about 4 years ago, I want to say, and it really helped kickstart me into the whole online course world. So I got invited back to do a paid workshop for David's Inner Circle. And he wrote, "Louise is an excellent teacher, presenter, and LinkedIn expert. She gave an amazing presentation to our Rise Inner Circle of online business owners and knocked it out of the park." That's good because he says he's good at slow pitch softball. Highly recommended. Thank you so much, David. It means so much to you whenever somebody that you followed online and paid money to for their training then turns around a few years later and is giving you a recommendation like that. That was really fabulous. And final one is I did some work with people who serve the accountancy industry, and Geraldine Carter attended. She is a pricing expert for CPAs who want to build advisory services, and also a friend of mine. Just finished a small group training that Louise hosted. I learned so much about how to better use LinkedIn. Most importantly, she cut through the noise and clarified what to fix clean first in my profile, and then how to best to create content that works while staying out of the hubbub. Thank you, Louise. So worth it. So just a little taster of some of the feedback I get from the workshops that I do online they're really like privately hired to work with companies. I also work individually with people in my VIP sessions. If you want to go and have a look at how I work with people, pop over to my website, louisebrogan.com. Right, on with the podcast. If you go to Google and type in how to become known online, apparently there are 1.9 billion results. 1.9 billion, not million, billion. So everybody's looking up. Everybody wants to know how to get known. That's so funny. And the top thing that comes up is about hacks. Oh, how to get internet famous overnight. Get internet famous with these 11 Instagram hacks. What else does it say? How to become famous on the internet. How to get popular on the internet. How to become famous in shockingly easy steps. Da 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 da. Okay, that's not what this podcast is about. It is not to become overnight famous online. Got to put a bit of work in, guys. You know, that's kind of how my business has always been built is, know what you want to do it, be consistent, show up, deliver, and keep doing it that way. No quick, dirty hacks, like some of the things they're saying. Participate in massively popular conversations. Actually, that's not a bad tip because in an upcoming podcast episode, one of my expert guests and I talk about on LinkedIn that if you sign up for LinkedIn events with a huge attendance at it, you can find people in that event who might become good connections for you, collaborators for you, potential customers and clients. So actually, it's not a bad one, that one. Okay, but we're not talking about the hacks that I found on Google. We're going to talk about how you can build your authority online. Why do you want to build your authority online is the first thing. Okay, what is the purpose of this? If you are working in, say, the financial services industry, and you want to become known as an expert in your field, how do you do that? What is it that you do? What are the steps you can take to become known? And when you become known, if you're in a corporate role within that industry, you become somebody that people talk about at work events. And when you apply for jobs, people are very keen to see what you have to say. If you start your own business, people will follow you if they know who you are and they like what it is that you're saying. But also, at the end of the day, people buy from people. So whether you are a coach, a consultant, or somebody who's working in a large corporate or even a small corporate, people buy from people. And how would somebody know if they like the messaging or the personality behind the brand if you don't actually spend a little bit of time and effort showing up? And doing it online is one of the easiest ways. So how do you become known? And how can you build up the trust that leads to somebody who actually wants to then take the next step and invest in your products or services? We're going to go through 5 key things, 5 key areas. Number 1 is specialize. Okay. You've heard about niching down, and some people say niche. I will not go there today, but they say the riches are in the niches. The riches are in the niches. So what is your area of expertise? Have you niched down? Do you have a speciality area of expertise? I have niched down into focusing solely on teaching people how to use LinkedIn for business. I will be niching further this year in 2021, and I am looking at the specific industry that I want to niche down into, and it's probably going to be the one that I've been doing the most work in, to be quite honest. You got to think about, if you niche, is it an industry? So say you niche by industry. Is it an industry that you know a lot about, that you have worked in, have worked with the people who are in that industry? Do you enjoy what it is that happens in that industry? Okay. So for example, I've done a lot of work with people in the financial services industry. I have mainly, I would say, in terms of teams and organizations, I've done a lot of training with people in this area. I've spoken at conferences for women who work in finance. And I spoke two conferences in the financial services arena before we all went into lockdown in early 2020. So when you specialize down into a particular area or niche, you are the go-to person for the people within that industry. So, for example, I know in my online circles of business people, I get referred to when someone says, oh, I need help with LinkedIn. Someone will tag me and say, you need to speak to Louise Brogan, because they know that I don't just cover Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc., etc. I only talk about LinkedIn. The beauty of niching down into an industry or a particular subject matter is that you can become an expert in that area much more quickly. If you are completely absorbed in that space, it makes you easy to refer business to. It makes it easy for you to have things to talk about. You can be invited to conferences to speak to the audiences of that industry. So many reasons why you should niche down. And, I have conversations with people who are outside of online business who say, but are you not cutting your nose off to spite your face there, Louise? Are you not, shouldn't you be working with teams, people in the US and Canada and Australia and the UK? Yes, I do, by the way. But why would you say you're going to niche into one industry when you could be serving everybody that wants to use LinkedIn? People who work in education, people who work in research and development, people who work in tech, people who work in, you get the point, entrepreneurs, etc., etc. The problem is that when you're trying to talk to all of those different audiences, it's really challenging. It's much easier if you can choose a niche, and then all of your examples and your stories that you can tell about clients that you've worked with resonate with the people who are listening to you or reading what you're sending out in your email newsletter or on your blog, because they are also having the same issues. They understand what those stories mean in terms of how they are going out in the world and working. And it just makes it really, honestly, by niching down, it makes everything else easier. So that is tip number 1. All right. Number 2, listen to your audience. Some of these tips sound like they're kind of obvious, but people don't actually do them. So I'm in a couple of different business groups, and while my fellow entrepreneurs are amazing, wonderful people, and I'm guilty of this sometimes too, they're spending so much time talking to other entrepreneurs, they're forgetting to go and spend time in front of the people who are their ideal clients. So what you should do is go and find out where your ideal client or your target audience are spending time and go and engage with them. What do they want to know about? What questions are they asking over and over again? Another really good example of this is somebody who is an accountant who wants to go out. So maybe you've been in a big accountancy practice. Now you're going out on your own. You're going to build your own practice. Where are you going to find your customers and clients? You're going to find them on social media where they are asking all of the questions. And they don't, if you, for example, today in a women's group that I'm in, somebody was asking about how to manage a household budget. They want to get their spending under control this year. They want some help and templates on how to manage a household budget. And not one, but 2 other women in that group tagged the same Instagram account. A guy who uses Instagram, he's an accountant, and he gives out really handy, easy tips for managing household budget, right? Or you could become an accountant working with small business owners. And their issues and problems are very different and very specific. So if my small business friend was struggling with their accounts, been doing it themselves for the last 2 years, and have finally admitted that actually it would be easier just to give the end of year tax return to somebody else to do, they're looking to hire an accountant, I'm going to refer them to the one who works with the small business owners rather than the guy on Instagram who helps people manage their household budgets. Do you see how it makes a difference? But also,